When Wally and I first talked about the Hall of Fame and who should go in, and before we had cracked the cover of a yearbook or a record book or old newspaper, we tossed out a couple of names. And I'm pretty certain the first one I mentioned, coach or athlete, was Irv Nerdahl. He began coaching here at Robbinsdale in the fall of 1942 as an assistant to Reds hockey, and became the head coach in 1943. He lost his first 5 games as head coach before winning his first game against Excelsior. Well, he wouldn't lose too many more over the next 3 decades. In all, Irv was on the winning sideline at Robbinsdale 174 times, with 64 losses and 11 ties. The Robins were voted the state's best team in 1958 and again 1960 before their current playoff system was in place. I doubt there was much controversy though. That 58 team, for instance, playing in the tough Lake Conference, scored 208 points for the season, 56 more than our next closest opponent, while allowing just 37 or 60 fewer than the second best defense allowed that year. His teams won 11 Lake Conference championships before he stepped down during the 1972-73 school year, a year that ended with a Lake Blue championship in football, I might add. He was a teacher, both on the football field and of course in the classroom where he taught math. Wally told me just last week how he loved math class with Mr. Nerdahl. You see, Irv was still coaching then, back in the late 70s when Wally and I were in school. He was on the staff at Golden Valley Lutheran College. So Wally said Mondays and Fridays in the fall were taken up with football talk about the game that just was or the one coming up the next day. Made math a little easier. I could tell you the Robins' all-time record against any opponent through the 1972 season, or who the school's all-time leading rusher is. It's Eric Kaiser, class of 1969, by the way. I could tell you because Irv preserved it all neatly in a 3-ring binder. This one. Page after page of mimeographed, typed out numbers, and records and statistics, not to mention his comments and season summary about those teams, and handwritten notes from many of his players. John and I have loved looking through this book the past few days. It is certainly a treasure, and I thank you with sharing it with us. I interviewed Irv in the early 1990s for my TV station. He had just written a book called What is Football? A look at the sport apart from just numbers and records. I remember saying something to Irv that day about him being a good coach, and he told me, quote, "John, I don't know too many coaches who've won without having pretty good players. We can try to not screw them up too bad, but in the end, you need to have good players." Irv certainly had some good players, but he was a pretty good coach too. I am proud to present now to son John Nerdahl and family his father Irv into the Robbinsdale High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
Wow, what an honor to be here, and take great pride in being able to represent my dad for this award. There was some comments made earlier, I think, about the closing of the school, and as much as Dad would want to be here in combination with mentioning the closing of the school, I think I heard vaguely in the background a little groan coming from the spirit somewhere, because that's been a big part of Dad's life. Robbinsdale High School was central to his life. And when you think about it, all the people, the 22,000 people that went through this school, there's probably not one person who probably associated himself with this great school district than my dad. And some of that is because of the records that were compiled, the memories. So much of it has to do with the sort of people that we see here being recognized tonight. Dad would be the first one to say that although he compiled an extraordinary record, that he takes the greatest pride in the fact that it was the student athletes that achieved that, and the great coaches that he had working with and for him. One of them tonight, Doc Spurrier, and it's just great to see his wife Harriet here as well. I had some prepared comments, but after listening to so many of these athletes who, growing up, were my idols, I was, during most of the time that these folks that spoke here tonight were playing, I was 11 to 16 years old, very impressionable time in my life. And I was a locker room rat hanging around the RHS. That's kind of when I learned my first notion of heroes and role models. And these were the gentlemen that helped form what those were in my mind. They weren't just great athletes, but they were great human beings who turned out to be very successful. And I think if Dad were here, that's what he would also emphasize, is how successful on the football field the team was, the players were, and how successful they turned out to be later in life. Sounds trite sometimes today, maybe kind of cliche-ish to talk about football as being more than just a game, it's about life. But when Dad said that, he really did mean it. Simply, he would tell me that he felt it was important to prepare the team, obviously, for the, you want to get the team prepared, you want to motivate the team. What was really important to him, too, was to be able to trust that you prepared them and motivate them enough that they'd be able to take the field and make their own decisions, their on-field decisions. And I think probably the quarterback position was the most evident, and he mentioned that an awful lot as well. That's where he took his greatest pride, is those athletes that could take the field and run the show, and that would stand them in very good stead later on in their lives. Because of Dad, and growing up at this impressionable time when football was particularly successful, was probably an incredible character-forming opportunity for me as well. And I remember that everything about Robbinsdale football was positive and inspirational, but there was one time when I challenged that notion a little bit. It was after one of these Edina football games. And the team had lost that particular year. And I always used to go to the game and just hang out in the school bus with the team and then come back with them. Well, we happened to lose that year, and somehow I got lost in the shuffle. And so the school bus took off without me. Dad also trusted me, like he did his athletes, to know enough to get on the darn bus before it left. But I didn't. I was too busy remorsing the loss, I think. So he got home. His little redhead son was not there. I was frantically running around the stadium, and it was empty by the time I finally walked up to the closest open door I could see, and that was the Edina locker room. And I just said, "I'm lost. Who are you?" "Well, Coach Nerdahl's my dad." And one of them finished shower, took me under his arm, brought me home, presented me to Dad. So this perhaps made the loss even more humiliating. On the other hand, I think Dad realized that, you know, maybe Edina's not so bad. I just feel grateful being here to accept this on his behalf. I know that if Dad were here, the only thing that would be perhaps advantageous, because he may not be, is that you know that he's kind of a soft-spoken person and words come difficult for him. He's reluctant to speak, and so he would appreciate me doing this on his behalf. But he would really love to be here, and I'm sure he's here in spirit. So I really want to thank the reunion committee and John and Wally for pulling together this incredible event that will allow all of us to come here and just kind of wallow in the memories. I appreciate particularly Tom, your little ditty. You notice how quick everyone, if you asked anyone to probably say it, you probably wouldn't remember it until you started it. And then it seemed very natural as we all worked through it. So we've all got that to share, and it's wonderful that we can come here now and feel that memory all over again. And it's through gentlemen like this and my dad that gave us this opportunity, and the other 22,000 of us. Thank you very much.